I know Jim and the Hard Board have had a pretty challenging year with all these new materials that have come on, and what can and can't be approved. And I did ask her to kind of look into getting some direction from the, I guess, Secretary of Interior standards, but I have not. I haven't heard back. I placed a call to her earlier today. So it is a challenge, and I know Jim has done a really good job with the rest of the members of HARB, trying to be fair, but also trying to be consistent. And that's been a challenge, so we're working on that. That being said, I'll make the motion for COA 2010-049, applicant 5 South State Street, Enterprises, Inc., 5-11 South State Street, Temperance House, to follow the recommendation of the Historic Architectural Review Board and direct President of Council to sign the Certificate of Appropriateness, thereby approving the historical appropriateness of the application.
John, do you want to approve the COA, or are you following the recommendations of
I'm following the recommendation of HARB, yeah.
They're asking to deny the application, not sign it.
Right. I have not read. I didn't read that earlier. I thought I went through that earlier.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Start
I
again.
thought I meant my mistake. I apologize.
Oh, that's quite all right. I saw
Okay.
it there too. Yeah.
So, Jay, can I just jump in from the HARB recommended denial, or read the whole
We
application?
should follow the recommendations of the HARB and deny the application.
Deny the application is presented, denying the use of hardy plank and AZAC in all instances, and noting that HARB has approved this use of hardy plank on additions but not on the original structures or original buildings. The board recommended the original materials should have been repaired first, and if required, replaced in kind. All right.
I believe as part of a denial, we have to list a remediation, right? It's to replace those materials with the appropriate
In-kind type of
in-kind
material.
materials. Yeah. Okay. All right. It's been made. It's been motioned. Can we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Very briefly, I just want to say, since I asked a couple of questions and read this with interest, that I've sat through a lot of meetings over the years of council listening to really long discussions about windowsills and doors and roofs and things. And having gotten on council, I find one of the greater challenges is balancing the applicant's obligation to follow standards with a historic building with what's required as an owner. And I think it is a challenge. There's a dynamic there which is sometimes difficult to maintain. And while I have some sympathy for the unanticipated problem that was found at the time the work was done, what I don't understand, and while I'll be voting to deny tonight, is why at that point the contractor, the owner, did not come back to the borough and say, we've got a problem here, talk about how to resolve it without having it reach a point where it's completed with a non-acceptable material. 3 days strikes me as a minimum, granted, as not an unduly great burden to get freshly milled wood to keep this building truly historic with replacement in kind. And yet that wasn't sought after by your client. So someone once said in one of these council meetings, do we want to be a historic town or we want to be a town that looks historic? And it seems to me we have HARB because they advise us on how to be historic. There is no more historic building in the town than the Temperance House. So if we seem a little sensitive, it's for that reason. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Like I said, I was going to make similar comments. I'll save it.
My only comment to add to this is to read from the material safety data sheet for AZAC trim boards, and to remind council that the trade name for AZAC actually is polyvinyl chloride, PVC, Vintec 1, Vintec 2, Celtec, and AZAC sheet and trim, that it is entirely polyvinyl chloride, which is plastic, which has no relation to wood. And my second concern is that, like you have said, Mike, is that this is one of the landmark buildings in Newtown. It's not set back from the street at all. You are right smack against this when you're standing on a street. It is one of the recipients of one of the plaques on our walking tour, which points directly to its history. It certainly is an old building. It certainly has its problems, and needs some extra special, tender, loving care to maintain it. But with each piece of the Temperance House or any other building in Newtown with such a history gets replaced by plastic, the closer and closer we get to a theme park that is supposed to look historic, but in fact is merely a plastic facade that looks kind of historic. So I can't support use of those materials in this kind of an instance, so I would be supporting this this motion to deny the application.
Julia, one comment, though. I do think that the work that was done on that building over the past few weeks or months actually looks very nice. The roof looks extremely nice,
great,
and did a nice job to maintain that.
Yeah.
So.
I did see a comment from the audience. Did you want to speak?
My name's Bob King. I live at 242 South Chancellor Street. And as a former member of HARB and also a former borough councilor, I realize the problems that we have when it comes to historic buildings. But I do fully support HARB's decision and thoughtfulness that what we do need is we need to maintain, at least on the original structures, as much original material as we possibly can. And I know every once in a while you run into problems, but I think it's incumbent upon the person that's doing the work if they run into those problems. It's been mentioned here before too that if you come to the council, if you come to the borough hall and report it, that's the least minimum we should expect. And I just think that we have such a unique town here that if we don't consistently look after it, make sure that we keep the standards as high as we possibly can, we will end up, as our council president said, with something that looks historic and is not historic. Thank you.
Does anyone else from the audience wish to be heard? Okay. Any more comments on council? Okay. If not, call the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good holiday, too.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. The third COA 2010-050H applicant Charisse Hughes, 24 North State Street, Shoe Priorities. The applicant is seeking a certificate of appropriateness for installation of an awning. HARB recommended approval of the application as presented, noting that the font will match the font on the priorities for her awning as pictured in the photograph submitted on 11/17/2010.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Hi. Okay. Does council have any questions regarding this? No? Okay. If not,
Okay, make the motion.
Make the motion.
To follow the recommendation of the Historic Architectural Review Board and direct President of Council to sign the following certificate of appropriateness, thereby approving the historical appropriateness of the application with final approval by the Code Enforcement Officer.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Or any discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
So, you're good. You got it.
Okay. COA 2010-052H applicant Deborah Wright Richmond, 16 South State Street, Modestics. The applicant is seeking the certificate of appropriateness for the installation of 2 directory sign insert plaques. HARB recommended approval of the application as presented.
Okay, is the applicant here for this one?
I'm Bruce Richmond.
Okay. Okay. Does council have any questions for the applicant? Or do you want to
Make the motion
John?
to follow the recommendation of the Historic Architectural Review Board and direct President of Council to sign the following certificate of appropriateness, thereby approving the historic appropriateness of application with final approval by the Code Enforcement Officer.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Not? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You got yours too. Okay, very good. Anything else on HARB, John?
Nope, I think we're completed, right?
Okay,
4.
anything? We're good. All right, thanks.